Hi YouTube, back with another video. This video is about making life changes and making sacrifices. Has there ever been anything in your life that you thought about a long time ago, things that you wanted to do, but you were too afraid to make the changes or too reluctant to make the changes? You made a lot of excuses as to why you could not change something or why something could be done. Are you happy with your life? Is your life the way that you envisioned it to be? That's what this video is about. This video is going to be about giving you the motivation that it takes to make the necessary changes in your life to achieve the goals and things that you want to have. I think back on my own life, back when, I was like 18, 19, and I had all these lofty goals, as most people that age do, about their life and where they want to end up and the things that they want to have or the way they think things are going to go. And then you get to a certain age and you realize that things didn't exactly work out according to plan. So what do you do in those situations? Well, one of the things that you do is you take an honest assessment of your life and ask yourself, what went wrong? What happened in my life that changed things from what I wanted versus where they're at now? That's a very difficult thing to do because it's going to require that you have a lot of self-reflection. You're going to have to look at your life honestly and really decide, what is it that I really want out of this life? What is it that I really want to do? How can I be a better person? It could be something pertaining to your career. It could be something pertaining to education. It could be you wanting to relocate to a different city or a different country even. It could be a personal goal that you have. Maybe you might want to be more physically fit. Maybe you want to be more financially stable. Maybe you want to overcome an insecurity that you have. Whatever it is, you just have to take this time to self-reflect with yourself and have an honest conversation with yourself about what it is that you actually want. The next step in making a life change after you had that honest talk with yourself is to devise a plan. And when I say devise a plan, I'm not necessarily talking about, something's like 5 years out or nothing like that. But I mean, what can you do today? What can you do right now? What can you do to change the trajectory of your life? If you're not happy where you're at right now, what can you do to change it? That is also going to take some honest reflection because you're going to have to really look at all of your options. And when I say looking at all of your options, I'm not just talking about, the here and now. I'm talking about like literally, it might take a while to get there, but what can you do? What would it take for you to do whatever it is that you want? Realistically, minus excuses. You take away all the excuses, you take away all of the perceived limitations that you may have. And if those things didn't exist, and whatever they may be, that's in your head, only you will know that, whatever those limitations are. But if you take away those limitations, what would it take for you to really do what you need to do? Can you realistically do it? I would argue that if you really want to make a change in your life, that you'll do whatever is necessary in order to get that done. And I'll use myself as an example here. As I said in the other video, I'm originally from Philadelphia, Philly. Lived there my whole life. But as I got older, I began to realize that that's not where I wanted to live anymore. They had like a lot of issues down there with the crime, the job market isn't really that good. The salaries certainly aren't that great, depending on your industry. And so I had to make a change. And I implemented some of these strategies that I talked about here. I thought about it. Took an honest assessment of my life, an honest assessment of what had done so far, and I looked at where I wanted to be. And I began to create a roadmap for myself as to how I was going to do better. One of the things I knew for my own life was that, like I said, I didn't want to be in Philly no more, and I wanted to make a change. So I said, okay, where might I want to go that could give me all of the things that I was looking for? For me, it was a safer city. It was go to a place that was more diverse. It was a place that had higher income. It was a place that was collegiate, I value education. and I wanted to go to a place where I could have like kind of like a fresh start. So the decision I made was to do a complete restart of my life. Um, in the process of doing that, I learned a lot of things. You know, when you relocate someplace where you never been before, where you don't have no friends or family yet, you don't have no connections, it really makes you take a good hard look at yourself and dig deep to maintain your motivation for even wanting to continue out with your plan. And then once you're there, you know, you've really got to take an active investment in getting the things done that you want done, for the simple fact that you don't know anybody. So you're definitely starting over. Um, Once you do those two things, the third step would be to try and figure out what you're going to do. Now, for me, prior to me relocating to Boston back in 2021, I'd applied to jobs up here. I got a few callbacks. I eventually accepted an offer and got started up here with that. So that was the one good thing. You know, at least when I finally made the move to relocate, I already had a job already lined up. Um, but that's something that you really have to take a look at. You know, I know it's hard to do. It was hard for me to do as far as leaving my family and friends behind and moving to a new place where there was like no connections or nothing like that. But at the same time, it also kind of sort of worked out to be one of the more fulfilling aspects of my life because I was able to get the validation within myself that, you know, I had what it took to survive in a completely new place. You know, a lot of times, you know, sometimes people stay where they're from. You know, they stay in their original hometown. They know everybody there. But I would challenge you to really take an honest assessment of your circumstances and of your situation and really decide if you're truly happy there and really decide, you know, if that's really where you want to be. I had looked at a bunch of different places to go. You know, Boston obviously was one of them. I had looked at Florida. I had looked at maybe somewhere out on the West Coast. But the point I'm making here is that once you make it up in your mind what it is that you want to do, the universe has a way of, you know, letting things work out in your favor. The other thing I want to say too is that, you know, I know, like I said, moving someplace different or staying in your same city but completely changing your whole life and what you've done and stuff, it can be very scary. It can be a daunting task. You know, you're doing something that you haven't done before. But I would say don't be afraid of making those sacrifices and those changes. Life is nothing but a bunch of sacrifices. And no matter what you want to do, you know, sometimes you just got to take that first step and then everything will follow. You may worry about your family, your friends, you know, if people will respect your decision for doing it. But at the end of the day, you have to recognize and realize that everybody's not willing to do that. A lot of people thrive on being complacent. A lot of people thrive on not taking that leap ahead and doing the things that they really want to do. A lot of people are kind of robotic in that sense. And so if you know that whatever it is that you're doing, even if it's a comfortable situation right now, and you know that that's not where you want to be long term, you have to be willing to, you know, dig deep and really, you know, decide that it's time to make a change. When I relocated, I was nervous about what that would entail. I had never relocated before. I was nervous about if I would succeed, if I would make it. Um, I kind of questioned if my family would agree with my decisions. But ultimately, I had to realize that at the end of the day, we all only have one life to live. And we all have to decide what it is that we want for our own self, aside from everybody else. Now, if you got a family, wife, kids, all that, that's different. That's a different thing to consider. But even with that, you would have to decide if where you are is where you want your kids to be raised at. You know, you got to take a look at your spouse and decide if that person is happy in their circumstance or in their situation, or if they could, you know, benefit from going someplace else. And so the point of this is to say, you know, don't be afraid to make changes. Don't be afraid to move on. Don't be afraid to leave your um, stable situation to go into a different situation, because sometimes making that move can put you in a better situation than what you're in right now. Don't get complacent. That's one of the biggest things, especially in 2023. Complacency is not where it's at. It's not like it was back in the day where, you know, you grow up in one town, you stay in that town, you work in that town, you retire from that town. Things is very different now. So it's very important that you always are constantly taking an honest assessment of your life, where you're at, your finances, your career, your overall life, your health, and all of that, and really make adjustments as needed, as necessary. With me being here in Boston, and like I said, I came up here in 2021. I said I would give it 5 years to decide if this is where I wanted to stay. Like I said, I came here pretty unbiased, didn't know nobody here. So I figured it would be a good opportunity to really see it, test it out, try it out, see how it is, decide if this is a place that I can make a home. And I would give myself 5 years to really make that assessment. As of now, it's been 2 years. So far, so good. I mean, there's been bumps in the road. There's been some, surprises along the way, things I didn't expect. But I maintain focus, maintain discipline, and I want the same for you. So if you're considering relocating somewhere, if you realize that you're not happy where you are, if you realize that you want to make a change in your life, if you realize that you want to just try something else out that's different from what you've already used to or what you've already done, go for it. It's like, honestly, what really do you have to lose? The only thing you have to lose is, regret, the regret of not doing it. When you get up there in age and you realize that you'll be looking back in your life and you're like, hey, what about this? What if I did this? What if I did that? You don't want to be that guy, that girl. You want to be looking back on your life when you get up there in age and you're like, you know what? I took a risk and it worked out. Or you might say, I took a risk and it didn't work out, but at least you took that risk. And sometimes that's really what you got to do. You never know what opportunities are out there for you until you try. A lot of times when you get complacent and you stay in one spot, your opportunity can kind of run out. It can kind of run its course. Some of you might be in positions right now where you hit that glass ceiling and it's like you realize that, you may not be able to move up anymore, or maybe the place where you're in, you're not making what you want to make, but you don't want to leave because you've been there for a long time. And I'm here to tell you that sometimes you just got to make that change. You really got to make that change. People will respect the idea that you was brave enough to make the sacrifice, make the change, and not just talk about it, but actually be about it. People will honestly and truthfully respect it. If nothing else, for the simple fact that it's showing you taking charge of your own life. It's showing you recognizing that something isn't right and that you want to make a change for it. So I just want to let you know, make a plan. First, decide in your mind that you want to make the change. 2, make a plan. And 3, once you get there, stay motivated. There will be ups and downs in everything that you do. Don't regret your decision. A lot of times, the going will not always be easy. Sometimes the going will get tough. But you have to remember why you made the decision that you made to make a change to begin with. You don't want to go backwards in life. You always want to try to go forward. And sometimes relocating to a new place with a new environment, new position, new colleagues, new neighbors, new surroundings will be what it takes to motivate you to put you where you ultimately want to be. Also, from personal experience, I can tell you that employers and people alike love it. They love to see people move to a new place that they're not familiar with. They admire, the tenacity and bravery that it took to do that. Because like I said, a lot of people in the world are very, very, very complacent. And that's something that you just don't want to get into the habit of. All right. The next thing I want to talk about is once you're there, you really want to try to build a network of support. When you go to a new place, you may not have nobody there if it's someplace where you don't have any family or friends. If you're starting completely fresh like I did, and you really want to build a family of support, try not to get into the habit of being sitting in the house every weekend, being stuck in the house. You actually want to get out there and meet people and talk to people. Believe it or not, in a lot of metropolitan areas now, there's a lot of transplants. So a lot of people that moved there that wasn't there before. And you would be surprised at how many people are coming to the new city, maybe working at your new job that's not originally from there. A lot of times they can give you a lot of advice and a lot of tips on how to navigate your new city, places to go, places to avoid and stuff like that. Yeah, we have Google and all of that, but sometimes the internet isn't the most reliable source for getting current information on where things are. Word of mouth is very key, and sometimes just a simple, friendly conversation can be all it takes to, um, make connections and get other jobs down the line, make friends, have acquaintances, be invited to events and stuff like that. And that's my advice for this video. Thank you.